Mallare, wrapped in a heavy overcoat, his hands in thick gloves, walked from his door into the street. The cold straightened him. The deserted night mirrored itself in a thin coating of snow that overlay the rooftops. They sleep, he thought, his head bent toward the wind. The streets are empty. The night is mine. I must think of what has happened. There is something inexplicable in what has happened. My hands fought with a phantom. That, of course, is nonsense. How do I know my hands fought? Merely because I remember them striking. Yet that may have been an illusion too. Then why are my hands tired? Why do my arms ache? Another illusion, of course. Logic is independent of truth. Logic is the persuasive repetition of ideas by which man hypnotizes himself. I must beware of logic. It will but tie me hopelessly to hallucination. I must think without evidence. I do not know anything. What I see, hear, smell, touch is nothing. I can no longer summon my senses as witnesses. And is that unusual? I must sink to moralizings in order to understand myself. What is reality but the habit of illusion? Man sees the unexpected once and identifies it as a hallucination. He sees it twice and calls it phenomenon. But if he acquired the habit of seeing the unexpected, he accepts it as reality. In the same manner in which he builds phantoms into furniture, converts his gods into sciences, his myths into laws. In that way, he also reduces his furniture into phantoms. He converts his emotions into music, his nervous disorders into literature, his three elemental desires into thought. He is continually holding a mirror to nature and worshipping the childish phantoms within the mirror. This is the basis of egoism, the mania to change realities into unreality. Because man is the tool of reality. Of unreality, he is the God. It is this desire to dominate which inspires him to avoid truths over which he has no sway and to invent myths. Gods and virtues over which he may set himself up as creator and policeman. It is this which causes him to cloud the simplicities of nature in a maze of interpretations. It is this by his interpretations he achieves the illusion of importance. Ignored by the planets, he invents the myth of mathematics and reduces the universe to a succession of fractions and Greek letters on a blackboard. This, of course, for man, the egoist. The more humorous spectacle is the one in which man finds himself awed by his own lies. His gods, his myths, his phantoms come home to roost. He stands blinking in a veritable storm of lies. His yesterday's lies, his today's lies, his tomorrow's lies. All his obsolete interpretations, his canonized interpretations, all his systems, his philosophies, all his gods and phantoms, these riot and war around him. Error endlessly assassinates itself in a futile effort to escape its immortality. And in the midst of this horrendous confusion stands man, naive and powerless. But he has his sanity. He blows it up carefully like a soap bubble and strikes a defiant posture in its center. And against the walls of his bubble, his phantoms storm in vain. Within his bubble, he proceeds calmly to assert himself. It was snowing. The night, white with snow, stared like a blind man. A phantom world hung in the air. Houses and streets withdrew silently. The snow covered them. Mallare walked on, staring into the heavy weave of flakes. It snows. The moon has come down and walks beside me. The wind blows and the moon gallops away on a white horse. A gentle annihilation. The night has fallen asleep, and this is a dream that pirouettes in its head. The street becomes a bridal couch. Ah, the snow is like my madness. It snows, snows. I climb silently among soft branches and white leaves. Delirium sleeps with a finger to its pale lips. I must continue to think. The storm hangs like a forgotten sorrow in my heart, but my thought persists. It crawls like a little wind through the forgotten storm. It rides carefully from flake to flake. I overtake myself. What a quaint imbecile I am, or rather was. In my effort to emancipate myself from life, I succeeded only in handing myself over to my senses. And my senses, I perceive, belong not to me, but to the procreative principles of biology. They have been loaned to me by a master chemist. When I die, my cherished soul will disintegrate into nothing. It will become a useless thing. It will unquestionably go to a heaven which is as non-existent as itself. Heaven is the emptiness into which souls vanish. Very good. But my senses, these are immortal. They will, in some inexplicable way, I am certain, continue their idiot career. I must consider them. I have learned one thing. They are indifferent to reality and unreality. They contain life within themselves. All that exists outside them is extraneous, shadows among which they divert themselves. The hallucination that overpowered me, but never seduced my intelligence, became a reality to them. She was a shadow with which my senses diverted themselves. Then why do I look upon the business as illogical? The illogical thing is not that I feel tired from striking her who had no tangible existence, but that I should be able to reason beyond the reach of my senses. Yes, that I should succeed in wresting them from their prey. For the shadows with which the senses divert themselves are tyrants they may never hope to abandon. Man is at the mercy of his phantoms. Behold, I arrived at the conclusion, which means I am bored with the subject. I prefer the snow, but there is time for the snow. I must establish premises. Climb out of the abyss on a ladder of premises. What did I say about logic? Oh yes, the persuasive repetition. One flake remains invisible. 1,000 flakes are of no account. It is only when flakes repeat themselves too endlessly for my eye to distinguish that I finally ignore them and walk contentedly in a storm. Thus with logic. When I have surrendered myself with an infinity of assurances, my error vanishes in the constant repetition of itself, and I am reassured and sane. Yet I must think simply. The snow seduces me into a fellow labyrinths. I've destroyed her. My senses were in love with her. They responded to her kisses. She was a thought able to ravish my body. This is what the pathologist would identify as a triumph of the psychic sex center. What charming palavers, the pathologists. Man crawls in a circle around himself and fancies himself an invader, the pathologist. A matter of no interest. What I have done, as the Christian scientists ably put it, is to rid myself of this thought. But why was it necessary to strike at it with my hands, to tear at it with my fingers? This worries me. But did I do these things? I must convince myself that I didn't. I remember sinking my hands into her body, pulling at her flesh. I remember blows given. She screamed. I struck her and flung her down. These things I recall. but they do not interfere with my convictions. For of what are they proof? The blows I gave were no more than shrewd make-believe. To my senses she was real, and it was necessarily, therefore, to destroy her realistically. To my senses she was real, and it was necessary, therefore, to destroy her realistically. It was easy for my mind to ignore this thought. I was never its victim. I merely created it. My senses that belonged to life, and not to me, however, became victimized. I do not recall myself as a spectator of the struggle. I remember it now as I might remember participating in an honest fight. A very clever ruse. It is evident I loaned myself. I surrendered adroitly to my idiotic senses. Therefore, for that hour I was completely mad. What happened in the room? Ah, what a grotesque memory it makes. Mallare knocking his fists against the air. Mallare throwing himself around like an epileptic. Sinking his fingers into nothing, a shadow boxer pummeling frenziedly at space. That was madness. But it served its purpose, for I've destroyed her. Rita is gone. Yet there's a curious twist in that. I am lacking one memory. One very important memory hides from me. I calculate its time and place, but like a recalcitrant comet, it fails to enter the appointed void. Alas, I no longer remember killing her in the street.